Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to know the secret to a worry-free life? Stay tuned to find out.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, five-time author and fiduciary, the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
Welcome to our show, and as I get ready to share with you the secret to the success of not having to worry about retirement, but also a worry-free life, we want to remind you that we're recording this show in our Louisville studio on August 15th, 2017. I'm reminded of this as I watch, as you can see here, the recent brawl that took place between two opposing groups in Virginia. This brawl reminds me and reminds you, hopefully, just how crazy people can be and why we are starting to see this world, it appears, gradually drifting into chaos. That very few pundits on TV can explain really why this is happening. For instance, I heard a commentator from one of the news talk shows ask one of their distinguished guests, a man, quite frankly, who I have respect for and has a lot of intellect, try to answer the following question, and here's what she asked. Why do we have such a violence problem? After a few moments of thinking about it, you could tell he was taking back, and you really could tell he didn't have an answer. Well, I do, and on today's show, I'm going to share with you the secret to being worry-free. Not only about your money, but this is also going to be the secret to how not to react so much and worry so much about the events around us, because it really does affect our planning, it affects our joy, it affects our use of our money. All of these things come into play. Now, how do we fight this temptation? Because when we see this kind of stuff, let's face it, here's our emotions. We get discouraged, we might get angry, some of us just might get downright upset as we see all this carnage going on. So here's the key. You got a pencil and paper handy? Ready? Write this down, because what I'm about to share with you is the root. It is the foundation of how I operate my business and the tenets and the foundation of what I've done when I created this worry-free retirement, and of course the company that's behind all of this, Tony Walker Financial. The secret sauce to fighting against this wedge of discouragement from all the stuff we worry about that's spreading across the country, across the world, here it is. It's simply as follows. Develop an attitude of gratitude. Let me repeat that. In order to be worry-free in your life, in your money, in retirement, this is what I've learned. I haven't mastered it yet. This is what I've learned, though. We have to develop an attitude of gratitude. That's the only way to fight the world's worries, folks, because the uncertainty will bring about this lack of peace and joy that really, that's what we're wanting. So we're not watching the nightly news. What we do, we turn into our favorite pundit on the radio. It doesn't matter. We don't have any money, so we listen to some guy on the radio tell us what we should and shouldn't be doing. And all of this, all it does is it drums up uncertainty, because until you can develop this attitude of gratitude, in my belief, I really believe this, it is going to be very difficult to truly be at peace with this world. Now think about it a minute. Let's go back to that brawl. Look at this. Look how silly these people look. I mean, to the viewer, this mayhem, you've got to admit, it just looks crazy, and at best, you've got to admit, this is non-productive. So what provokes people to resort to this kind of violence? And I'd have to say, a lack of gratitude. I mean, why would you be out there doing this if you had something else better to do, and if you were pretty satisfied with life in general? You wouldn't be in the middle of this. So I have to tell one of my stories on my late great father. I know I told you one several weeks ago. I had a lot of compliments about that, about the range balls. I still don't think people believe that happened, folks. It did happen. In case you missed that one, you can go back to our YouTube channel at Tony Walker Financial. By the way, America's favorite financial sidekick is here. Aaron, do we have that on the YouTube channel about the golf? That's a great one about the golf balls and the range balls, folks. But anyway, this is a great example of this attitude of gratitude. And I'm going somewhere with this, folks. And in fact, in the second segment, what I'm going to share with you is going to blow your mind in terms of how you develop this attitude of gratitude when it comes to your money. Some training I had in the past that's really helped me. But anyway, all right, it's 1970. I'm the whopping age of 10 years of age and my parents divorce. Okay, divorce back in 1970. I know everybody and his brother seems to be divorced. I know my granddad, who I talked fondly about, he was a real character. I said, hey, Granddad, when I got married, I was engaged to Susan. I said, you coming to my wedding? And he laughed, smoking his Marlboro cigarettes. He said, no, but I'll show up at the divorce. He was just kidding. But anyway, that's because nobody really divorced back then. But in my childhood, I remember this one instance very clear. Okay, so it was my weekend to spend with Dad. Dad had called over. I could tell from the phone call with my mom things weren't going well. She hung up the phone. I remember this vividly. She said, oh yeah, Tony, your dad's coming over at 6 or whatever. He wants you to bring his weights up, lifting weights. Now, there weren't many weights here, folks. A bar and about 50 pounds of weights, and then this old wooden contraption bench that was probably dangerous to even work out on. He wanted that too. So I pack all the weights up, set them on the front porch. As usual, my dad's late, whatever it is, 6:30 or whatever. So I'm sitting out there waiting for him, all right? And he's supposed to pick me up, and we're going to go over and spend time in his little duplex he had where he lived. So here I am. I'm waiting on the front porch. I've hauled him up front. Here he finally pulls in the driveway late. As he walks up, I guess because my mom didn't want to talk to him, my mom walks by, gets in her car, and takes off. So this is not a good scene, folks. It's really not a good scene. So it gets a little sad here. Okay, this is a true story. So Dad sits down. He doesn't say a word. I'm kind of sitting there beside him looking around. I can literally see kind of tears in his eyes. And he pauses and he says, all I got out of this marriage is a bunch of, I won't say what he said, a bunch of weights. So nevertheless, we eventually loaded him in the car and went over. It was a long weekend. It was not a good weekend for me. But, I thought about this. And I began to think about my father. And I thought, now, what I probably should have said is, come on, Dad. Of course, I'm a 10-year-old kid trying to process all this, but Dad had so much still to offer. Now, granted, he walked away from that marriage basically with nothing except these weights, which I never saw him work out with them, by the way. I don't even know why he wanted them. Probably just for spite. He knew Mom wasn't going to work out with weights on this dangerous bench, so he got his weights back. But he didn't have anything in terms of material, but here's what he did still have. He still should have had an attitude of gratitude. He had me, he had his brother, he would later meet a lady and become married, so he would have had a future spouse that he didn't know about. He certainly had his health. He was in very good shape, good-looking fella, had a great job. So all he could focus on, though, is what he didn't have. See what I'm saying? And that's where this attitude of gratitude gets conquered. We're always so focused on what we don't have, and that's not good to do. Now, the financial world does this to us all the time. You got to think about this. The way the financial world works is they attack you with messages, and they remind you of what you don't have. And you say, well, they don't do that too. Yeah, they do. I constantly do this on this show sometimes. It's called marketing, folks, and they do that to get your attention. So what we're going to talk about in this next segment, this is going to be really good stuff. I'm going to show you how to take the focus off even people like me sometimes, who sometimes when you walk away you think, Tony, I don't know, you shared I ought to have this, ought to have that. I don't have that much money, or I can't do that right now for whatever your circumstances are. Or I don't seem to have any focus. I can't figure out what I want in the future. Years ago, I spent some time in a program called Strategic Coach. Dan Sullivan, who started that program, really helped me a lot thinking through this question we're going to have when we come back. So if you're struggling a little bit with your gratitude, I'm going to try to help you there, and you're going to see why this is going to help you become more and more worry-free and share an exercise that I do with myself and my staff all the time. And actually, I employ this. Clients don't know I'm doing this, but this is how I work. I employ this to help people visualize what they want, and more importantly, how the worry-free retirement can better help them get what they want out of life. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm going to be right back. Let me get out the whiteboard. This is going to be some good stuff. Stay tuned. Because of recent government regulations, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce predicts that over 7 million smaller investors may no longer receive the personal service from their advisor that they are accustomed to. I'm fiduciary Tony Walker, and regardless of whether you have $5,000 or $5 million to invest, we are here to serve you. In fact, Let's meet soon to talk about our newest investment program utilizing Charles Schwab as your custodian. There is no minimum account size to work with us. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Feel like the financial world is making more money on your money than you are? Tired of working hard to save money only to get 1% in return? Well, I'm Tony Walker, inviting you to meet with me in person to create a safe and simple game plan that includes mailbox money for life. To schedule your no-obligation appointment with me, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. While there, just click on the Meet with Tony button and we'll make that happen at your convenience. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Incidentally, before we get to some great stuff on the whiteboard, many of you have probably heard or even you've had changes coming to you from your brokers, this Department of Labor ruling, which is still really not taking effect. I said all along this was going to be a boom for Wall Street. I said it would. It's supposed to put everybody in a level playing field. Look at this article that just came out in Financial Advisor. It says why the DOL rule might be a boon for brokers. It notes that, look at this. See, what's happening is a lot of these big companies are pulling back from commissions because the commissions are supposed to be evil. So they're going to fee-based accounts, which is what they love anyway. Wall Street loves fees. So for instance, this article says Merrill Lynch's 38% of its wealth business clients in fee-based accounts in the second quarter, which is up 19% from the previous quarter. So you've probably noticed this. If you're with a large brokerage firm, they've maybe sent you a letter that they're changing, they're not offering commissions, they're moving you to a fee platform. Folks, these fees they're going to charge over and over again. So let me make you this offer. We have a free fee analysis. If you've recently gotten one of these letters out of the blue and it doesn't make sense, slow down. Let us take a look at your statements because we have a brand new platform with Charles Schwab as our custodian. We are in some cases lowering fees by $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year. This is money that we're going to see you could put in your pocket or do something else with it. So to get a free fee analysis, all we need to do is see the brokerage statement you want us to review. We'll document all the fees. We'll compare it to our program. This is simple to do. There's no charge and could save you thousands of dollars. What you need to do is email Heather at our office. It's Heather@TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Heather@TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Tell her you want the free fee analysis. You will have to provide us your statements, and then I'll be happy to meet with you in person to discuss our findings if you like. All right, we got to watch our time here. Okay, we've been talking about this idea of having an attitude of gratitude, and we've seen that as I gave you the example of my father, we have to develop this attitude. It has to be intentional, and as we're going to find out in the final segment when we get to the Bible, it has to be inspired and driven by God. If you are in this world trying to fight the things of this world, folks, that's all we're going to have is ungrateful spirits because there's so much calamity and chaos going on around us. So how does this affect our finances, Tony? How can you help me get more grateful about where I am so I can kind of charge and move forward with some of my financial goals? This is a real interesting thing. So there could be other categories where you add to this. I'm just showing you how I would think through this and in some of my training in a program called Strategic Coach. I spent 3 years, spent a lot of money, flew back and forth to Chicago and studied under this, and I learned a whole lot about setting up what we call processes, okay? Everything involves a process. You have to have a process in anything. But here are some things to think about. So when somebody comes into me and maybe they're having some difficulties, there could be issues with health. For instance, I met with a couple yesterday, they're clients of mine, and we were talking about doing some planning, and all of a sudden they kind of put the skids on. They said, Tony, you know what? We can't even make a decision on that because I've got a test I've got to go check out tomorrow. There may be some bad news, okay? Well, it's hard to be grateful sometimes when you're going through this uncertainty such as health. So that's one issue we might think about. But as I said, if you have your health, oh, by the way, I was down in Florida with my wife celebrating our anniversary. She let me go play golf. But you know, that's the good thing. When you've been married almost 34 years, when you ask to go play golf and they encourage you to go play golf, either you don't worry about it or actually you're thinking maybe we've been married too long. Anyway, I'm out playing golf, and a gentleman they hooked me up with, he said, you know, I was playing by myself. They had a guy that wanted to play with somebody. I said, yeah, I'll play with you. Well, he had a prosthetic leg. And I didn't say anything, but he said, well, you're probably wondering about my leg. I'm a wounded warrior. And I said, really, how did you lose your leg? And he went on to talk about Afghanistan and how he lost it and how he took up golf. This guy had the greatest attitude in the world. And, you know, just a couple of years earlier, had both of his legs, but his health had changed but he still had an attitude of gratitude, I could tell. Work. Have you got a job? Are you able to work? If you can work and you have a job, you should be grateful no matter what that job is, because it means you could always improve yourself, all right? Improve. Improve means to take what you're doing now and don't base everything on performance. Take the improvement that's available, your abilities. You could get more schooling. You could try different jobs. So there's always room for improvement. Cost, I'm going to put this up here real big. Fees, okay? Here's an example right here. If we could save you $1,000, $2,000, $8,000 a year in fees, think about what you could do with that money. That is a true savings. That's just one example. We could put insurance premiums under this. We could put tax planning with your 401k, all this stuff. These are things you can be proactive about. Game plan. Again, we talk about this. We are experts in written game plans. That's what we do for you. So if you want a free assessment of your situation, a written game plan, no cost or obligation from somebody that's been doing this 33 years, why don't you take advantage of that? By the way, any of this stuff, just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, take advantage of our free services. And then finally, resources. There are so many things you can do that we can try to help you with, whether it's seeing an attorney about things, an accountant, some of the products we offer, life insurance, long-term care that we offer, annuities, the Schwab platform, other things we can point you to help you. There are so many resources that most people don't know about. Okay, so finally, what's the strategic coach about? I know I'm rushing this, but this is important. So in strategic coach, I learned something called the R factor. Now what the R factor is, let me read you this question real quick and I'll show you how this works. So this came in from Katrina from Louisville. She sent an email. She said, Tony, I'm 50. Now I'll be 50 in 4 years. I'd like to start investing now. So obviously Katrina hasn't been invested yet. I'm single, no children. I want to make a step towards retirement now. See, she's positive. She's not worried about it. If there are resources, and that funny she mentions that word, that can assist me, it would be greatly appreciated. So the first thing I'm going to do is not ask this specific question, but basically this is how I work. The R factor question says, okay, Katrina, if we were meeting here, let's say at age 65, let's fast forward, maybe 65 was her goal to retire. What has to have happened between now and 65 for you to feel like working with me has been a successful endeavor? Again, I don't always ask the questions just like this, but this is how I go roundabout to find what people are looking for. We have to know what it is they want and what would be their expectations for them feeling like they've made progress, because as you make progress, you will develop this attitude of being more grateful. I'm more grateful when I have accomplishments. I mean, we don't want to have failures all the time. So again, we have to set the expectations, but then have somebody like myself that can build a plan that's realistic around the expectations. So then what do? So then Mr. Sullivan, who created this something. Many of you in manufacturing know it as SWOT. He calls it DOS. And that stands for, we must identify three things: the dangers, the opportunities, and then identify your strengths, okay? Dangers, opportunities, and strengths. So what I am doing, not in this exact form, you wouldn't see that I'm doing this, but what my training is, all of the retirement planning training, all the credentials I've got, what I've learned is you have to know how to take somebody through this. We have to set up a game plan that includes those, and then when I come back with an assessment, this is really what I'm doing. And this is what we're really good at, and this is why so many people, after they go through the WorryFree Retirement, feel like, hey, I'm doing better than I thought I was. Or had a person yesterday, we went through this whole thing, she said, I had no idea I could retire now, but she can if she really wants to. That's what makes our work so enjoyable. So you may be sitting there right now and you might be saying, Tony, I've never had anybody present anything like this. The last time I went to somebody, all they did was sell me something or pitch me something. I want to sit down with somebody that I can trust, a fiduciary that I know is going to work in my best interest. To do that, to set up an appointment to see me in person, why don't you take advantage of it? No cost or obligation. Get a second opinion on what you're doing, for goodness sakes. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Do it now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, we're going to get into the Bible, and does the Bible have anything to say about this attitude of gratitude? You bet, but I got to get me a cup of coffee. You hang in there, I'll be right back. Did you realize that Wall Street and your advisor could be making hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year to manage your money? There's no reason to remain in the dark about fees. Take advantage of our free fee analysis today and learn more about our new investment management platform using Charles Schwab as our custodian. To learn more or to find out what the fees are on your investments, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Good cup of coffee. Hope you're doing well, and welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. And we've been talking about this mindset of having an attitude of gratitude. I kind of like this saying. I don't know if anybody's ever put it that way, but I'll claim it for now. I love it though, and I hope this has been of help to you in that last segment to help you think through that little exercise on how you can get more focused and, more importantly, understanding the training I've had to help you get more focused, and then the process we use, the Worry-Free Retirement. You know, I'm not trying to down the other advisors out there, but there's a lot of people trying to do retirement planning. You have to ask, what are their credentials and what is their training? Who have they been trained by in order to understand better your principles, what you're trying to do, and then the experience of a staff to back up. In this case, we talked about the R factor question, all right? Good stuff. So this attitude of gratitude is our foundation of the process we call the Worry-Free Retirement. Let's face it, if you have a grateful spirit, you're going to worry less about money. It's just a fact. There are so many legitimate concerns in the world, and we can talk about those, right? Running out of money, going into a nursing home, wayward kids, becoming disabled, losing a job, etc., riots in the streets, some rogue country deciding to lob a nuke at us. I mean, that's not going to end, folks. There's always going to be worries of the world. So what does the Bible have to say about this concept of developing an attitude of gratitude? Well, let's go way back. Aaron, let's go back to 1 Chronicles, if you can put this verse up, 9:33. 1 Chronicles 9:33, where it simply states, "Now these are the singers, heads of fathers of households of the Levites, who lived in the chambers of the temple, free from other service, for they were engaged in their work day and night." That's an interesting verse. Now you got to remember, those were the musicians or singers. Again, these were responsible for their work day and night. They did it in the morning, they did it through the day and through the night, and they were singing. Now, to help us understand this verse, we go to Charles Spurgeon's devotional. I've made a note here. Let's take a look at this. He reminds us that in the temple, the old singers were constantly praising God. You think about this, when you're singing in church, you're not just singing, you should be praising God. What are you praising Him for? You're really, hopefully, being thankful for something. You're being grateful. You're showing gratitude for what He has done for you that you yourself could not do. So this verse tells us that also these people were heads of households that were singing. We could assume they were important leaders who felt it was probably more important than to get out and attend some mob or raise a bunch of cane, and instead stay inside the temple and sing praises to the Lord. Why? Because they knew God would be well pleased with these acts of gratitude. So Spurgeon says, and I'm reminded of this. This is great for me to even just sit here and read this to myself because I can fall into this so easy. But Spurgeon reminds us God deserves our praise. For let's face it, folks, without Him, and this is going to help us sum up why there's so much problems in the world. People have discounted God. But without Him, what are we going to have? You're going to see the mobs in Virginia. You're going to see people with no hope. You're going to see people more discouraged. And certainly the sign that this is happening is people will be less grateful. James in 5:13, let's go to James 5:13 real quick, Aaron. Great verse here. It says, "Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful?" I would say, is anyone thankful? James says, "Let him sing praises." Well, folks, we have to have something to sing about. Maybe it's the Worry-Free Retirement. Maybe that's that, Aaron. Let's come up with a fight song for the Worry-Free Retirement. But we got so many things to be thankful for. Spurgeon reminds us we've got our present joys, we've got our past deliverances, and we've got future hopes if you're a follower of Christ. So keep that in mind. Keep gladness in your heart and try to keep this noise out of your life and stay focused on what you want. Get a game plan and get some help from somebody like us who truly is trying to help you further where it is you want to go. In fact, you may be feeling like that right now. You might say, "Tony, I don't have an advisor," or "The financial world never sits and talks to me like that. We don't talk about deep things like gratitude and ways I can improve myself. They just seem to want my money. Doesn't even feel like they care about me. They seem to care more about my money than me. If that sounds like your situation, maybe you just want a second opinion. Maybe you've recently been somewhere. A lot of these dinner seminars, man, they're out there by the boatloads. Maybe you've been to one of those, and before you sign on the dotted line, you say, wait a minute, I'm going to slow down, get a second opinion. Let us talk to you first. Maybe you've got money languishing in the bank. Maybe you're getting ready to retire and you got a 401k and you need help with it. Again, we are here to help. And best of all, to receive one of these free game plans that I've worked so many years to create, focused on savers, there is absolutely, let me repeat this, no cost or no obligation to meet with me in person. In fact, we care so much about helping savers, there is no minimum account size to meet with me. That's right, whether you got 5,000 or 5 million, it doesn't matter. We are here to help savers worry less about money. By the way, don't forget to order our brand new booklet, hot off the presses, Mailbox Money for Life. You'll want to get this. Again, if you want to get that Mailbox Money for Life booklet, it's a nice soft cover booklet. We'll mail it to you. You got to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Contact Tony, and then type at the bottom, make sure we have your address, mail me the Mailbox Money for Life booklet. Mailbox Money for Life booklet. If you want to meet right away in person at either our Louisville or Bowling Green office, I'd be happy to do that. Again, no cost or obligation. When you're at that Tony Walker Financial website, just click on the Meet with Tony button. One more thing we got to mention, this has been popular. If you would like the free fee analysis, maybe you're saying, Tony, I'm trying to get ahead in life, but I feel like Wall Street's making more money on my money than I am. I don't even know what they're charging. We will provide a free fee analysis of your entire portfolios at no cost. Now, there's an email you need to send that to, and we have to see the full statement to do this. As a fiduciary, we have to see the entire portfolio statements to give you an accurate analysis. To get the free fee analysis, you want to email Heather, that's Heather at TonyWalkerFinancial.com, Heather at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Tell Heather you're interested in starting the free fee analysis, and we'll make that happen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. Don't forget to check us out. We have other programs on. You can go to the YouTube channel, Facebook, and again, on TonyWalkerFinancial.com, we have a listing of all the different times of our TV show. In case you can't make this one next week, we have other opportunities on different stations. So for the Worry-Free Retirement, I'm Tony Walker saying you make it a good day, and you remember, if all else fails, you remember to be worry-free. Have a good day.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.